My name is Nahid Esheraghi Mazloum, and I'm the daughter of Enayatollah Eshraghi, who was executed by hanging on 16 June 1983, and the daughter of Izzat Esheraghi and sister of Roya Eshraghi, who were executed on 18 June 1983.
Let's talk a little bit about your family. I'd like to know the lineage of your father's side and your mother's side in terms of the Baha'i. Let's talk about that first.
I think, as far as I know, which is not much, I think they were third generation Baha'is. And
On both of them?
on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
On both of them.
How many children they had?
You mean in their families?
I mean,
In our family, we were 5 children. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My 2 brothers now live in Australia, and I have a sister who was the youngest in the family, and she's still in Iran.
mm-hmm. Now, where were you brought up? Where were you born and where were you brought up?
Yes, I was born in Isfahan, and I was raised mostly in Shiraz, and did my education up to my bachelor's degree in Shiraz. Then I proceeded for my further studies, and that's when I left Iran in 1974. And then by 1980, when I had finished my master's and doctorate degree, in Iran the revolution had already started, and my family and my husband's family did not encourage us to go back to Iran, because they said that at this point in time you probably won't get a job because you are Baha'is, and there are pressures on Baha'is, and they were worried for us. So they said that if you have a chance elsewhere, you may want to consider that.
Now, were your parents from Isfahan?
Yes, my parents were originally from Najafabad.
Why did they move to Shiraz?
My father was working with the National Oil Company, and because of his job, he was often moved from one city to another city. So he had traveled in different cities in Iran, and he retired in Shiraz. He had during his working, he had built a home in Shiraz, so he retired to be in his home. And also my sister Roya at that time was going to university in Shiraz, and so they wanted also to be close to her, so that's where they ended up. We did live in Shiraz from the time that I went to primary school and then secondary school, and but I think it was after 13 years that they were there that my father was transferred to another city in another province in Iran.
As you and your other brothers and sisters were growing up as a Baha'i, did you ever experience hardship during the Shah's time?
I know that for sure from the time that I was very young. I knew that we were different and that there were prejudice against us. I do have some memories of that. And really, the parents usually protect their kids. So I know that, for example, I was sent to private school because probably my parents thought that that's a better atmosphere for me. But I also do remember that sometimes my classmates told me things that I didn't like to hear, that I was not clean, that if I offered them something to eat, they said, oh no, we can't take from you, you're a Baha'i. And so the hardship was like this. A few incidents that I remember that my father was involved, and I could overhear in the family that this has happened because he was a Baha'i. For example, I don't think he got the promotion that he deserved after working so many years in the National Oil Company because he was a Baha'i. But the hardship, as I call it hardship, no, I don't remember that.
Your mother was not working?
No,
Okay.
my mother was a housewife.
How involved your mother, your father were in the Baha'i community? Did they have any responsibilities?
Yes, my parents were ordinary members of their communities. They participated, they attended the 19th-day feast, which is obligatory for the Baha'is. And they were every now and then members of different committees, which is very sort of minimal for the Baha'is. When they lived, for example, in a small town, they were members of the local spiritual assembly, and I think that's as far as it goes. I think that towards the end, when they were in Shiraz, before their execution, I think maybe my father was a member of local spiritual assembly. I'm not 100% sure, of course.
Now, when the revolution happened, where were everyone?
When the revolution happened, I and my two older brothers were out of Iran, and my family at the time were in Mashhad.
Why Mashhad?
Because of my father's job. And that's the time that he retired, and then they moved back to Shiraz.
And your younger sister was there?
Yes.
With them?
Yes, my younger sister.
How old was she then?
At the time that they moved back to Shiraz, I think maybe she was 16, 17. And soon after they moved back to Shiraz, my father's retirement pension was cut. And
this is after the revolution?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is after the revolution.
So one of the first things happened to your family because of the revolution was that the pension was cut.
Yes, that was the first thing happened, and my father, who at that time was in his 60s, had to start finding things to do to earn a living, because all these years of working for the National Oil Company and saving pension had all gone.
What did he do?
He partnered with someone he knew on to do property development. I don't think it went a long way, because that was soon after he was arrested. And
Now, do you know how he was arrested?
yes, they were arrested 2 times, and the first time that they were arrested, they were kept for 3 days.
When you say they,
my family.
did they arrested the whole family?
The first time, the whole family.
They came home?
they came home. They knocked on the door. They came home. They said that they were the guards from the government. They had to search the house because they suspect that this house was a center of some sort of activity. So they searched the whole house, and then they said that and they collected books, papers, and they said that they will let them know. The next day, in the morning, they came and they arrested all 4 of them, including 2 visitors who had just happened to be there for lunch. So just before they have their lunch, they said that you all have to come with us.
Who were the people that they got caught?
The visitors, one was a cousin of mine.
Before you mention their name, are they in Iran now? Or
One is in Iran, one wasn't an Iranian
okay.
to begin with, and she's...
So that's not. So there were 2 other. Who in your family were there?
My parents, my sister Roya, and my younger sister Rosie.
Okay. So they arrested them and they took them to jail.
Yes, they blindfolded them so that they don't see anything. They were taken to jail for interrogations. In the prison, they were separated. My father was in men's ward, or whatever they are called, and my mother and Roya in another one, and the youngest, Rosie, and the lady visitor in another cell.
How old was the youngest sister?
17.
So Rosie was 17. How old was Roya?
Roya was 20. Yeah.
Okay. So how long did they keep them?
For 3 days. They kept them for 3 days. They asked questions, asked them to fill some forms, and then after 3 days, they let them go.
How did you hear about this?
At the time, we used to live in Nigeria. And so after all this has happened, my father wrote a letter describing what happened to them and sent us the letter. So that is how we
Through the
knew,
letters.
through the letter that my father wrote.
And when is this, the first arrest?
It must have been 81. Yes, 1981 or 82.
So what happened after they were released?
After they were relieved, they went back home, and sometimes they suspected that they were watched, but they didn't really take it seriously, and they just lived their life a little bit more cautiously. That means that they did not encourage friends to come and visit them, or they did not did not go to visit a lot of their friends, and that's one of the things that they enjoyed doing. So they started to just spend more time with themselves, just not cause any reason for a second arrest.
What were your sisters doing at that time?
Yes, my Roya, which was to go to second-year university, was dismissed because she was a Baha'i, and she did follow up on that, but she was told that unless she changed what she has written on the forms for registration, she cannot be accepted in the university. And my other sister had also finished high school at the time. So what they were doing, they just busy themselves with reading, with doing crafts. And in fact, I recently came across a letter that they had written to me in those days, and they had written that they were making different handicraft to sell because at this point our father had no income, and so in their own way they tried to help out with the expenses of the household.
So when was the next time they came after them?
Then about a year and a few months after that, in I think late 1982, they were once they came to our house again for the search. The guards came to our house to search the house, and got asked for a sack from my family and filled it with family pictures and books and whatever frames, Baha'i frames, and whatever they thought that it is appropriate for the purpose that they were there. And after they did that, they brought out a list, and from the list they asked for my father, mother, and Roya. And my sister Rosie told them that, what about me? Whatever we have done together, we have done it together, so what about me? And they said, no, you are not on the list. It's only the three of them.
Why were they after? Your father was the member of the local assembly.
Maybe, yeah, either that or was an assistant to the auxiliary board members who were.
But he was involved.
Yeah.
But why your mom and you?
Yes, my mother and my father, they were both members of a committee who provided counseling for the married couples or the couples who were going to marry. So that was the committee that they were involved in.
And your sister?
Roya was teaching Baha'i children classes and probably meeting with other young people and studying together, reading together.
Teaching what?
Teaching morals and Baha'i history to the children of Baha'i children. Even I think at some point they were teaching them school subjects because some of these kids either could not go to school because of the all the prejudices that was around, or they needed help with their schoolwork. So at some point they were even teaching them school subjects.
Okay. So how did you hear about this one? This
About this one again later, because at the time, this was long time ago, and communication through phones was not very good, and the letters would come, even though late, but we received the letters. So my sister, first the youngest one, sent us a letter telling us that this has happened, and she had no news because for the first 10 days, I think she had no news of where they were and what had happened to them. And therefore she had assured us that she's going to follow up and she would let us know, update us on whatever comes as the result of her follow-up. And then letters would come, for example, after her first visit or after other visits. Whenever there was something that she thought that we want to know, she was very good in regularly updating us. And whenever we had a chance during this period of time, we had to travel to another city to make phone calls to her and to ask her how she was doing.
Now, at this time, where were your brothers?
At this time, my brothers, one was in Pacific Islands and one was in US.
So, Were you at any time talking to your brother and your sister worried that something extreme can happen?
We were worried for them, but never imagined that something extreme would happen to them, because we did not see any reason. Oh, by the way, my parents had also gone on Baha'i pilgrimage to Israel. So that was another thing.
Your parent, not your sister.
No, no, my
So how long
parents.
were they in the prison?
They were in prison for 7 months.
And then what happened?
And then, according to their regulation at that time, during these 7 months, of course, the first month it is interrogations, and then after that, after the interrogation time is passed, they are transferred from one prison to another prison, and in that prison they would wait for the charges, and after the charges. After they have been told the charges, without the benefit of having really a proper court hearing or having a lawyer, they have been given 4 chances to answer questions and decide either to join Islam or to face execution. So in Farsi they said Islam ya idam. They had to either choose to become a Muslim or to choose execution. And I know that during these times, they had always indicated that they believe in Islam, but they are Baha'is, and they cannot deny their faith. And after these 4 sessions, then that means that their sentence was execution. So it was just a matter of probably weeks or days before they were actually executed.
But you did not know about this.
We did not know. No, we did not know. We knew some of the hardships that they were going through.
Like what?
For example, they never had a chance to see each other, and they had requested in prison that the mother, father, and sister meet together. There was once when all these prisoners were gathered together, and the judge who was advising them to join Islam so that they can be freed, my sister asked the judge if their family can meet, and the judge said, okay, I'll give you this chance. Maybe you can guide each other and encourage each other to become Muslims, and then I can let you all go free, and I can pay your pension of your father that has been cut. And so that was the chance that they had, a few minutes to meet each other, and that was one of the joys of during that prison time that Roya had told Rosie in the visiting hours, that how happy she was to touch our father's face and touch his beard and tell him that she loved her, and how she joked about how my parents could not really let their hands loose from each other, and so that was one of the joys. But other than that, it was the visiting hours was once a week, maximum of 5 minutes from behind the glass. They never had a personal face-to-face visiting time. During a lot of time, whatever she brought for them, it never reached them. Whatever the letters that they wrote to her never reached her. We knew that from the time that my father remembered my sister's birthday, and when she went for visiting a day after her birthday, my father said, "Happy birthday," and my sister was impressed, said, "Oh, Dad, you remembered my birthday?" And my dad said, "Yes, and I have sent 3 letters during the last week. Apparently you didn't get any one of them." She never got those letters. And other hardship was, for example, in the women's prison, the space that they go for fresh air, it was under renovation. So for over a month, they had not seen fresh air at all. They had not gone out of the cell at all. My mother was really one of those women who loved nature. There wasn't a day that she could stay at home all day. At some point during the day, she had to go out and just enjoy the beauty of the nature and fresh air, and we always teased her about that. Now, in that condition, she had to stay in prison for over a month without having a chance to go out for fresh air. And one of the things that my sister wrote, which haunt me sort of, is that in one of the visits, my mother asked her in the spring, said, "How is the weather? Have the flowers blossomed? What about orange trees in our home? Have they blossomed?" And my sister explained for her and told her, and then she said, "Smell them for me." And tears came to her. And my sister really felt so bad, because she felt that she didn't deserve to be free outside when her mother and sister and father were in prison, having done nothing wrong.
Now, how did the news? Who was your father was executed first? Is that right? And how did that news came to your sister?
The last visit that my sister had with our father was a very special visit. Her boyfriend had proposed to her earlier, and during these 5-minute visits earlier on, she had told our parents, because they were very worried about her, because she was a young girl of 18, 19, and they were worried about her living alone, even though family kept her company. But in order to tell them, to kind of make them feel comfortable that she's not alone, she told them that there is this young man who is interested and has proposed in order to be with me during this hard time. But she did not have any intention of getting married until they come out of prison. When they have learned this and they knew this young man, my mother especially insisted that they have to marry as soon as possible and they should not wait. And told my sister that she would feel much more at peace if they do that. And she told her that they should have her blessings, and they should talk to our father, and if he agrees, then they have to get married. Anyway, our father also knew this young man and was very happy for him to be his son-in-law. And so she had decided that they would get engaged, and then hopefully between her engagement and 3 months after for her wedding, the family would be released. So on that last visit, her fiancé was with her. They went to visit, and he managed to get in to visit as well. And the engagement party was the day after. So they told our father that this was the situation, and our father told them that maybe I'm not there physically, but I'll be there in spirit with you. And from the account of that visit, my cousin had also been able to visit my father, and my cousin was told by my father that they had had the 4 sessions, and their sentence is execution by hanging. And he had told my cousin that you tell our daughter to be ready. This is the situation that happens. Despite of this, no one thought that this will actually happen. The next day was the engagement, and that the next day was the day that our father and 5 other men, Baha'i men, were taken for execution.
Do you remember the name of the other 5?
I remember, yes, Dr. Afnan, Mr. Azadi, Mr. Haqbin, Quresh Haqbin, and I think Mr. Siavashi.
So when did your sister hear about it?
So this was a Thursday. Saturday morning, she was early morning, she was at home, and an aunt and someone else knocked at the door, and looking at their faces, she knew that something terribly wrong has happened. So they told her that our father and these other men have been executed. And she was, of course, she was out of control, I assume. And so she could not, she was so restless. So she immediately went to the center of the Revolutionary Guard place to ask for information and for permission to get the body for burial. And the guard there asked her who she was, and asked her, how are you related to Roya and Izzat Janami? And she said that these are my sister and my mother. And she said, okay, well, you go ahead, come back tomorrow and I'll give you. So the guard apparently knew that that day was the execution for the others. That's why kind of sent her back. So she went, from there, she went to the morgue and somehow managed to make this guard agree for her to go and see the bodies. And she saw the body, she kissed my father's face and touched him and said her goodbyes, and told us later on that our father had a smile on his face. And she went back. She had to prepare herself for the visit of women, because that was the day. Saturday was the women's visit.
In terms of the signs of the cause of death, did she remember anything? Did she tell you anything?
All she said was that the bodies were swollen and there was no trace of the noose on their neck. So it has been hanging. Whether she had been told before or how she knew, I'm not sure. Perhaps that was how it was happening at the time.
The same day that your youngest sister had her engagement celebration, your father was executed. And on Saturday, she actually found out about, she actually got to see your father's body, and then she also had to go for a visitation. So let's talk about that visitation.
Yeah, she went there and she was wondering how is she going to give this news to mother and sister. So as she was standing waiting for the prisoners to come, and as they were coming, Roya was very excited because she knew that it was her engagement. So she kept on showing her finger and wanting to see her ring, and she noticed the sorrow in her sisters. So as soon as she was behind this glass, Rosie told her, of course, before the microphones were on, showed her that our father has been signed, that our father has been executed. And so Roya started crying and told our mother that this is what happened. And then the microphones were on, and my mother told her not to worry, and she has to move on, she has to think about herself, and that is the fate that she and her sister is going to have. Sooner or later, this is what, and she had told my sister that she knew in her heart, she knew that this has happened, and she had cried her heart out, and but now, and she had had a dream last night that she was in a garden together with our dad. So she is in peace because she knows that she's going to go soon and join our father. And my sister was very surprised because the bond between our parents, the love that they had between each other, and how they could never be separated from each other, and they would really get depressed when they were not together. And all of a sudden, this, seeing how she reacted, my sister was very surprised, but happy in a way that our mother has taken the news so well. And so they talked, and she told Roya that our father had a smile on her face, and Roya and Rosie, they promised each other to keep being strong and knowing that one day justice will happen, and they have to be as strong as he was, smiling at the hour of his death. So I think after visitation is finished and they were going, Rosie had a written in her diary that when they were going, as if they were not from this world, the way that they went out, there was something special about it. And at the time, she kind of, I think that the fear of this is probably the last time was there, because yesterday was the news of the father, and so she kind of expected that maybe this is the last. They never knew what is going to happen. Now that something has happened, this can happen again. And sure enough, the next morning, they had another knock on the door, and this time she was told that there were some 10 women who have been executed, and they did not know if my mother and sister were there. And so in her desperation to find the news, I think he was running here and there, and someone who knew her on the road told her that they know that our sister was among the 10, but they were not sure of our mom. So she goes to the morgue again and begs the guard to let her in. And the guard says that, you were here yesterday. What is going on again? And she said that it's my mom and my sister. I have to go and see. So the guard let her in, and she sees our mom. She sees our sister. In her letter, she describes how she found them. She saw the trace of noose on their neck. And she touched them, she kissed them, she said thank you. And the guard kicked her out of the morgue, said enough. I mean, I think the guard was sad as well, but anyway. They never had a chance, the bodies were not given to them. They never had a chance to have a proper funeral for them. From what she had heard, that the bodies of the men were given to the hospital as a cadaver, and they had also heard that the hospital did not accept the bodies for the reason that they were old. One of these were a doctor who was working in that hospital, Dr. Afnan. And the bodies of the women were taken by the guards. Apparently, one of the Baha'i young people had been kind of following to see what happens. And they were dumped in pre-dug graves in the Baha'i cemetery that has been confiscated before, and the graves have been all destroyed. But in the same place, they had dug graves, and they have dumped the bodies over there.
All the bodies in one place?
I'm not sure, and I don't know whether it is clear or not.
Do you know the names of the other women who were executed with them?
I know, if I remember them correctly. You want the names?
If you can.
Yeah. Mona Mahmoud Nejad, Mahshid Niruman, Zareen Moghimi, Simin Noakhtar, یا اختری، اختر ثابت. I don't know if I recall all of them now.
Okay. So, what happened to your sister after this?
After this, shortly after our house was confiscated.
So they came and they took the house.
The
Basically
house
threw
and
your
everything in
sister
it.
out.
Yes. And when she objected, she was told that, she can, they can find a Muslim husband for her, and then he would take care of her. She shouldn't worry. If she's worried for herself, that's what she should do. So she went to families, to relatives, and a few days before the execution of women, Mona's mother had been released from a prison. And she told my sister that our mother had requested her to promise to ask Rosie to marry as soon as possible, and that she would represent our mother, so that Rosie would not delay on that. My mom was a mom, very worried about her young daughter in that atmosphere. So Mrs. Mahmoud Nejad told my sister that she has to get married as soon as possible, even though she's mourning the loss of her family. So I think a month or a month and a half after executions, she had a very simple ceremony, and she got married. So then she went to her home, her husband's home, and she was living her life. But there hasn't been a day without event for her. She's the only one who has chosen to remain in Iran and loves Iran. And I think despite of all the hardships that she has gone through and is continuing to go through, she still believes that one day she would have a full right as any other Iranian in that country. A few months after their wedding, they were visiting a friend, and that house was interrupted by guards coming to search. They had come for the host. However, when they found out that there were visitors in the house, they arrested all the visitors, including all the men, including my sister's husband. And then I don't know now under what charge. He was sentenced to imprisonment. So he was in prison for a couple of years, I think, and then released. Then, of course, she have children. Her children had been going through hardships at school, being harassed by sometimes the school administration, being harassed by students sometimes. But anyway, they finished their high school. They have university education has been a problem. Two of them did enter colleges, but after one of them, shortly after a year, was dismissed because of being a Baha'i. The other one, he was on, I think, the third year. He was dismissed because of being a Baha'i. And so their education has suffered as such. And then 2 years ago, out of blue, their house was under search again, and everything in the house, everything that had a trace of Baha'i, a picture frame, a carpet with Baha'i writing on it, all their diaries, cell phones, computers, pictures, albums, everything was taken. They told me that the amount that they collected from their house could not be just put in an ordinary car, saloon car. They had to bring a pickup truck to take them. And they were never given a list of things that were a receipt for the things that they have taken, and they haven't recovered them either. And at that time, they arrested her husband. For 10 days, she had no news of where he was, what had happened to him. I think finally, after 10 days, she heard that he was transferred from Isfahan. They live in Isfahan, to Yazd. So I think after 10 days or 2 weeks, he managed to call and tell her that they are under investigation, there is no possibility of visit, and that's when she knew where he was. And then after a month that he was in prison, he was released on bail. Then later on, he was sentenced to 4-year imprisonment, and the charge was acting against the Islamic Republic's, teaching against the Islamic Republic rules and regulations, and being a threat to the security of the nation. He has denied all the charges. He and there are, I think, 19 others who are in the same group of people who have been arrested. They have all denied the charges, and they have explained their situation. They have said truthfully everything that they knew about how they live their life and what is their involvement with the Baha'i community, which is basically, if for those who are involved, they are doing, they are helping with the management of the affairs of the community. For example, someone dies, needs to be buried, they have to find a burial ground. Or someone is, has no employment, cannot be employed, and they are living in poverty and they need to be assisted. These are the affairs of a community, any community, especially a community that in Iran that has no other support system there. There is no support system in the government. So if they are involved in this, and the government knows. They mention every detail that they know that they do. It is nothing secret. And I don't know how it is a threat.
Now, you and your other siblings outside of Iran, how the news of your father and your mother and your sister came about?
How did we hear, or how did it affect us?
No, how did you hear about it?
We, at the time, we were in Nigeria, and my husband was traveling to Lagos, actually, to renew our Iranian passports at the time. And when he was there, apparently there had been a news item on the papers in Nigeria that 6 men have been executed in Iran because of their religious belief or the belief in the Baha'i Faith. So our friends in Lagos, they knew, they had investigated. I think even the names have been there. So when he arrives there, he finds out that my father had been executed. So he tries to contact my sister in Iran. He couldn't. He tries to contact my brother in US. And when he contacts him, and that was the time that my brother told him that, okay, not only our father, our sister and mother had also been executed. So a couple of days later, he came back to our city with the news. And I think as soon as he was there, he could no longer keep it in. So he had said, but somehow, at the time, I just heard my dad. I think maybe I was in denial. Maybe I could not believe that this can actually happen. So I did not hear him saying anything about my mom and my sister. And then after a while, when I could calm down, I said, so what news about them? And he was surprised, and he said, I told you, they were also executed. I think I was sick for a few days. I could not be, I don't think I wanted to be in this world at the time. Until I talked to my sister in Iran. Fortunately, I managed to get through, and she told me that our house was over with flowers. She said all our friends and many people that she doesn't even know have sent flowers. People are just coming and going. And the way she talked to me, it was really like putting some water on fire. I just could feel calm and peace. And I think, I surprised myself, because after all these years, I don't expect myself to be in tears or to still mourn. But I think that's how it is. When there has been injustice, when you know that they have been innocent, you can never get over it. And I still sometimes, when I'm recalling it, or when I think about it, when I see people who knew them, or when I hear stories about them, I still find myself struggling within to accept that this actually happened. 31 years has passed and nothing happened, no justice, and sometimes I feel really guilty. I feel that, perhaps I should have done something. Perhaps I should have found a place, an institution where I could cry my heart out and tell them that this is not fair. But here we are.